Welcome to the Inform series, where we discuss valuable resources and tools to help grow Indiana small businesses through federal and state resources. I'm your host, Matt Burkett, Director of Innovation Pathways for ARI. Each month we'll dive into stories of innovation founders, seasoned entrepreneurs, and industry experts to uncover strategies and insights to help you grow your small business. Before we jump into today's program, I'd like to thank the Indiana Economic Development Corp for all of their support of Indiana small businesses. Also, if this content that's shared today is helpful to your business, be sure to share with your friends and colleagues about the Inform series and engage with us on social media and at the Applied Research Institute on LinkedIn. So, today I have with me Ms. Courtney Baker, Data Analyst and Marketing Associate, to talk about the Innovation Voucher Program. Courtney, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, Courtney, let's just dive right in. So, if you don't mind, can you give the audience a brief overview and background on your role at ARI?
Absolutely. So I started at ARI about a year ago. I started last February. I have done quite a few different things at ARI. It's a smaller team, so I've been able to get a lot of really great experience with a lot of different people. So I've done some event management, social media management. I've done some data analysis and data cleaning, and recently have taken over, well, not recently, it's been almost a year with that as well. I've taken over the Innovation Voucher Program, so program managing that, making sure we can get small businesses funding that they need, and we'll talk about that as well in a little bit. But this is my first job out of college, so I've been able to gain a lot of really great experience with this team and just being surrounded by a lot of really great professionals.
Oh, great, yeah. So yeah, I think, kind of based on your experience, you're kind of well suited for what we're going to talk about today. And the theme of today is the Innovation Voucher Program.
Yes.
So can you talk about how it's designed to help Indiana small businesses?
Absolutely. So the Innovation Voucher Program is an IEDC, an Indiana Economic Development Corporation program. It's their funding, and they are wanting to help small businesses work with universities and research institutes. Doing research with university has historically been really hard and really expensive, and so we want to encourage innovation and collaboration between those teams so that small businesses can get access to those labs that they may need to finish that proof of concept or really get that last critical piece they need to scale and commercialize their products.
Okay. Yeah. So in terms of the IVGs, you said it's an IEDC program. Has the program been around a little while, and if so, kind of where did it rest before you took the program over, several months ago?
Yeah, so it has been around for a while. I actually don't know how many years it's been around, but it's been around for a while. It was with Elevate Ventures previously. So ARI took it over last year. It is now an ARI program. We manage it. We will be the ones interacting with you. ARI is not a venture capital firm, so it's a little bit different than how it was previously run. We're not investing in your business. We're just here to help you get that last critical piece of funding to get that proof of concept and research project finished. Okay, yeah. So, again, the program, does actually, very much sound like a very beneficial program to the state and to our small businesses. So, we've talked about small business. So is, give me an example or talk about, who's eligible for an IVG. Yeah, so any small business that is registered to do business in the state of Indiana is eligible to apply for an innovation voucher. There are a couple requirements, not necessarily that the company needs to meet, but that the project would need to meet. So your project needs to be doing research services or development. So it could be developing a prototype. It could be performing a test, an animal test project, or there's a very wide range of things that you can do. We can be pretty creative on how we use this. Okay. But that does need to be doing research, and it needs to be with a university or a nonprofit research institute. It cannot be doing business or collaborating with a for-profit company. These innovation voucher dollars need to go to universities or nonprofits. Oh,
okay. No, good note there.
Yes.
So again, let's stay with that a little bit here. Mm-hmm. So a question that I often get, working with SBIR or STTR related companies is, so in terms of grant dollars, how much can I apply for? So how much is the grant total that I might be able to receive? So can you kind of expand on or talk about the maximum amount of funding that a company could be able to receive through the IVG program?
Absolutely. So per project, it is a $50,000 maximum matching grant. So whatever you spend, we will match up to $50,000. These projects could be a total project value of higher than $100,000, but for an example, let's say you have a project that's $100,000 and you apply for an innovation voucher, we would pay $50,000 and you would pay $50,000, and that's kind of how it would work. It could be you have a project that's $150,000, we would still only match $50,000. So that's kind of how we split it up either way, but yeah.
Okay. And now is that, and so in terms of the matching funds that can be provided through ARI, you may have touched on it already, but are those funds sent direct to the small business, or how are those funds allocated? Can you just kind of clarify that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So the innovation voucher dollars are given directly to the university or to your research partner. The money does not go to the small business. It is paid directly to the university, and then the small business would be either paying the remainder balance to the university or covering their internal costs. Innovation voucher dollars should not go back to the small business.
Okay, good. That's an excellent note. So again, just something to kind of keep in mind as you apply for these, that the funding will go direct to the research institution or nonprofit and not direct to the small business. So, so can you we talked about what the program is, the dollar amounts, the type of business that's eligible. Can you talk about, maybe give an example of what an ideal project might look like and how this IVG can be utilized?
Absolutely. So an ideal project, like I said earlier, it could be a wide range of things, but it is doing research services. So let's say you need to perform a study with Purdue in their lab, and only Purdue is equipped to do that study. So you would apply for an innovation voucher. Let's say the total cost of doing that work, but from your internal prep to the Purdue study to the back-end analysis that your team is going to do, is $100,000. That would be including all of the costs. So the ideal project would be, okay, Purdue is going to do $50,000 worth of work. They have this lab time, they have this labor amount, and this direct expense cost. Then you apply for that, you put all of that in your budget, including your internal costs and your final costs at the end, and you say, this is our total project, we're applying for a $50,000 match, and we're paying $50,000 of our own. Or it could also be to Purdue. Let's say Purdue's work was $60,000. We would pay $50,000, you would pay that extra $10,000 to Purdue. And that project would last about 6 months to a year. These projects are not meant to just continuously fund your business. This is to allow you to springboard into scaling and commercializing. This should only be used approximately once a year. You can apply for more. There is not currently a limit of how many innovation vouchers a company can receive, but they need to be clear and distinct projects. They cannot just be continuous work that you have going on, and you're like, I could use an extra $50,000 on this project we've been working on for 3 years. That's not quite how this is supposed to be used. You should pursue other funding options for those.
Absolutely, yeah. No, that's another great point too. Again, we can't be totally reliant upon the grant dollars that are received from the state or a federal program. Again, we want to use these tools to help us grow our business, but we can't be totally reliant upon those. So again, great. Thank you for clarifying that. So kind of, again, staying with that, can you talk about the IVG dollars and where they come from? You mentioned that this program used to be administered by Elevate, but ultimately, like, where do those dollars come from that we're able to pay, or that are able to be paid out to the research institution or nonprofit?
Yeah. So this, like I said, is an IEDC program, so it comes directly from the state. This is state funding. It's not ARI money. It's not different investors investing in your company. It's state dollars. They want to help you be able to grow your business in Indiana and really support you as a small business, so that you can stay in Indiana and also see great success.
Okay. So Money comes from the IEDC to help Indiana small businesses. Money goes to the research institution or nonprofit. Can you talk about, we're talking about the application process. In terms of, are there some big rocks for a company to kind of be aware of when they're going through the application process, or things that they need to pay more attention to at a high level before that application's submitted?
Yeah, absolutely. So the application, which is on our website, and I'm sure we'll link it for you to find very easily, but that process is actually relatively simple. So the application is not super long, but there are some things that you should pay attention to as you're filling it out. So the first one I would say is your deliverable schedule. Make sure you have clear and concise deliverables that we can track throughout the life of the project. These voucher grants are reimbursement based, so that deliverable is going to also be your estimated invoice day. So we also need a dollar amount tied to it. This can be a little bit confusing, so it's one thing to really keep in mind as you're going through is, okay, so this first deliverable, we're going to invoice on January 27th. That's when this deliverable is going to end. That associated cost with that whole deliverable would be about $20,000 for the innovation voucher specifically, not your matching costs that the small business would have, but to the university, what ARI would be paying you. And then you would note that as well. So your deliverable and milestone schedule would include the dates that deliverable is going to take and your dollar amount associated with it. The other thing that you should really pay attention to is your budget. Make sure you have each line item on there clearly defined where that money is going. So if it's a Purdue cost that you're covering, note that the small business is covering it. If it's a Purdue cost that ARI is covering, then note that the innovation voucher would be covering that. This budget is to ensure that none of that innovation voucher dollars go back to the small business. So just be very clear what the innovation voucher is covering, as well as the total project cost, so we can ensure that 50-50 match. I'm trying to think. There was one more thing I wanted to say about the application.
Well, let me pull that thread again.
Yeah.
You made a point that I want to kind of touch on. So I think about, like with the SBIRS TTR matching funds that we provide, through ARI, different program. Typically, when the grant agreement is signed by the business and by ARI, the funds are delivered to the small business in one lump sum. Can you talk about how the funding is allocated to the nonprofit or the research institution under the Innovation Voucher Program?
Absolutely. So it is reimbursement based. You have to perform the work and show that through a certificate of completion that work has been done to the satisfaction of both the research institute and the small business. So once you have done work, then we can pay it. It will not be received up front, which is something that's a very good point to note.
So is it a kind of like a milestone-based payment schedule for the company?
Yes.
Or for the
Yes.
for the university or research institution?
It is, and that can also be flexible as well. That was the last thing I wanted to cover on the application, so
Okay.
Thank you for sparking my memory. The reimbursement based, it can be flexible. So if the first milestone has a heavier cost associated with it, we can put more of the money to the first one. It just cannot be received at the start of the project. It needs to be after that first milestone is completed.
Okay.
And then we just ask that you leave about 10% or some dollar amount at the end of the project to ensure that we can see it to completion. So it's reimbursement based, work has to be done, and it will be on that milestone schedule that you are reimbursed for. You can also have a $0 amount milestone. So if you're covering the full cost of milestone number 1, you would just have a $0 amount from ARI for that milestone. It doesn't have to be evenly distributed. It can be, but it doesn't have to be.
Okay, so it sounds like that we've got a little bit of flexibility in terms of the milestone schedule and how the dollars can be allocated, can be allocated once approved. So that's nice. I mean, that's not always the case with a lot of these federal opportunities or either state grant opportunities as well. So it sounds like we've got a little bit of flexibility with this. So good to know for you as a small business. So keeping with the theme of the application process. So Is there a specific time of the year in which a business can apply for the IVG? I mean, is it the beginning of the year, or is it through multiple times throughout the year? Can you talk a little bit about how that application process works and when companies can apply?
Absolutely. So the application is always open year-round, but it is only evaluated 3 times a year. It is on a cohort-based schedule, so we evaluate once in January, once in May, and once in September, and that will always be a deadline of the 3rd Friday of the month. So the 3rd Friday of January was our last cohort that just closed. The application is still open though, so you can still submit, and then we won't evaluate again until May. So make sure as you're looking through your timeline of your project that aligns to that cohort schedule. So if you apply today and want to start next month, we won't actually be evaluating until May.
Until May. Okay, good to know. Because again, small businesses, oftentimes time is of the essence. Time is very important to the small businesses. They don't have a lot of resources in terms of back office support to help them write these grants. So knowing how to write them and when to write them to where they can be accepted is of the utmost importance. So kind of keeping with that, Courtney, can you talk about any tips or tricks that might help a small business be successful in pursuit of an IVG?
Absolutely. So like I said, the 2 biggest things is going to be your deliverable schedule and your budget. But in the narrative, it's also really important to tell how this innovation voucher is going to benefit your company. How is it going to spring you into that next phase of commercialization or scalability? How is this going to be able to help you start manufacturing your product? And how is it going to impact Indiana as well? So the impact on Indiana is something that IEDC is really wanting to track. So if you can clearly say, like, if we get awarded this innovation voucher for $50,000, we can create this prototype, and then we can hire 10 people in 3 years. That's really, really impactful for the state and something really beneficial just for the region itself. So that would be something really important to note in the narrative.
Okay, no, those are great. Those are great tips. Again, remember what she's saying, and then also kind of remembering like what she also mentioned too, kind of the incentive for the state. So where these dollars are coming from, and kind of what the point behind them are. That might help you put some context when putting that application together. So if you've talked about the program, you've talked about all the wonderful things that it can provide. I'm a small business. I'm all excited about the idea. I want to go after one of these. Where do I go to find the application to submit my innovation voucher request?
Absolutely. So it's on the ARI website. So it's theari.us, and then there is an initiatives banner at the top. You'll click that. It's a drop-down menu. Innovation vouchers is listed there. So that's where you find it, and it's again pretty straightforward application to go through. The one thing that I will say, as you're filling these applications out, if you have any questions, I'm also always available. Send me an email, give me a call, give ARI a call. I'd love to help you talk through the application, talk through your project, see if the innovation voucher is really a great fit for your project. And if not, maybe we'll talk through some other opportunities we could have or get you connected, get you back talking with Matt so he can tell you more about SBIRs and if that's a route that you could go down. But we want to see you successful, so we are always happy to talk through those applications and answer any questions you may have.
No, that's a great point. And I can say firsthand, like Courtney mentioned, we kind of do a lot of business sharing in our jobs because there's a lot of overlap in what she and I both do. But I can tell you firsthand, there have been multiple occasions where I've reached out to her and said, Courtney, can we get a Zoom or a Teams meeting set up with this particular company to kind of talk through it again to see if it's a good option for you? Because if it's not, we don't want you to waste your time filling out the application. So again, if we can talk to the expert over here and kind of talk through some of these things and talk about roadblocks, it's a great idea to do that prior to any kind of application submission. So Courtney, I know we're getting a little short on time here, but is there anything else that you want to touch on in regards to the program, or anything else that you want to talk about that maybe we haven't covered to this point before we sign off today?
Yeah, so we were just talking about applications. I think the last thing I would mention with your application is to make sure that it is a clear project. We've seen some applications get passed by because they were too broad. They're trying to do too much at once. Remember, this is only $50,000 that you could be receiving, so make sure you really scope that project out with a clear start and end date with a realistic budget. So if you're proposing a $1 million project and you want $50,000, that doesn't have as clear of an impact for the state to fund that, because it's not that big of a portion of your project. So how is this $50,000 really going to help you when you're still having to find so much more extra funding to get this project pushed through? So it's really, really important to make sure that it's a clear, refined scope of work. Don't just go big and try to put everything into this application. That actually hurts you for an innovation voucher. So you want to make sure it's super focused and super refined as you're going through it.
Okay. And so one last time before we kind of sign off here, Courtney, can you talk about, one, where a company would find the voucher application? Mm-hmm. Can you, again, one more time, just kind of mention the cohort dates the companies need to pay attention to before, so that way when they're out looking, they know, like, this is where I'm going to find it. This is the cohort date that I need to submit to before we part ways today.
Absolutely. So it's on the ARI website. So theari.us is going to be the website you'll go to. Look for initiatives, and then innovation vouchers. That's your application, and those applications are reviewed on a cohort basis, January, May, and September, and that deadline is always the third Friday of the month.
Okay. Courtney, with that, again, I want to thank you as always for joining us today. Again, I think the information you shared is going to be very beneficial for Indiana small businesses, especially as they pursue the Innovation Voucher Program. So again, just want to thank you for your time today and the information you shared. So with that, I just want to say thank you to you, the audience, for joining us today. I think this information has been helpful. And I hope the information that we share through the Inform series continues to be helpful to you and your business. And if it is, please be sure to share this with your friends, with your colleagues, or share it far and wide with those who might be able to benefit from this program. So, again, to stay up to date on the latest information, you can check us out at theinformseries.us. You can also check out our ARI website at theari.us, and you can, again, like Courtney mentioned, you can see the initiatives. The Innovation Voucher Program is included, along with the FAST program, the SBIR, STTR matching program. So with that is a wrap for today's show. Until next time, I'm Matt Burkett, signing off.